You ever see a moment so shocking, so upside down, that it forces you to rethink everything you thought you knew about people? Because that's exactly where we're starting. A billionaire woman in her late 60s was on her knees, literally, begging a man who had almost nothing to forgive her. And he just stood there, stunned, trying to figure out how the person he thought he knew had turned into a stranger. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and how old are you? And seriously, think about this. If someone lied to you for months just to test whether you were good enough for them, could you ever trust them again? Her name was Lillian Rhodes, 68 years old, sharp mind, sharper tongue, and richer than some small countries. The kind of woman who could snap her fingers and make entire business deals shift. But when it came to love, she'd been burned over and over again. Men her age wanted comfort. Men younger than her wanted money. And somewhere along the way, she convinced herself that the only way to find a man who truly cared was to test him. Set a trap, almost. A plot. A gold digger test in reverse. You might think that sounds cruel. And honestly, it kind of was. But loneliness twists people. It makes them believe terrible ideas are brilliant plans. So Lillian decided to pretend she was broke. Not just broke, struggling. She sold the designer appearance, traded diamonds for modest earrings, replaced her chauffeur with long bus rides, and even rented a tiny apartment in a middle-class neighborhood. All so she could find a senior man who wasn't after her fortune. Someone real. Someone steady. Someone good. That was when she met him. Harold Dawson, 72, retired carpenter, widowed 12 years earlier, living a simple life with a gentle way of speaking that made strangers relax around him. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't bitter, and he wasn't impressed by people who bragged. He just listened. And for the first time in years, Lillian felt like someone saw her, not the billionaire shadow behind her. Now, imagine you're her in that moment. You've spent a lifetime protecting your wealth, protecting your heart. And suddenly there's this man who asks nothing from you except your time and a warm cup of coffee shared on a quiet park bench. Wouldn't you feel your defenses slip? They started seeing each other a few times a week. Slow walks, long conversations. Harold would bring her homemade bread sometimes, the kind his late wife used to bake. Lillian would pretend she couldn't afford much, so he insisted on paying for their meals, even if it was just soup from a small diner. She watched him carefully, searching for cracks, waiting for signs that maybe he wasn't as pure as he looked. But the more she searched, the more she found something frightening. He actually was good, too good, and that scared her more than if he'd failed her secret test. Because now she wasn't just playing a role anymore. She was falling for him, and fast. One evening, Harold invited her to his home for dinner. Nothing fancy, just roasted chicken, vegetables, and old jazz records humming in the background. But Lillian felt herself melting in that warmth. The way he set an extra napkin by habit, as if his wife might still walk in. The way he looked at her with gratitude, like he couldn't believe someone wanted to spend time with him. And guilt began choking her. If you've ever lied to someone you're starting to care about, you know that pressure. It sits in your chest like a stone. She told herself she would reveal everything soon. Maybe in a week, maybe tomorrow, but not tonight. Tonight she wanted to feel normal, wanted to be loved without money complicating it. Everything changed the following weekend. They went to a community charity event. Nothing high profile, nothing glamorous. Just locals gathering to raise money for a neighborhood garden. Lillian had been careful for months, but one of the volunteers recognized her, not as Lillian the struggling retiree, but as Lillian Rhodes, billionaire businesswoman known for her real estate empire. The woman froze. Harold noticed. Then he looked at Lillian, and she felt the blood drain out of her face. He didn't confront her there. He just stared, confused, like he couldn't understand what was happening. She tried to pull him aside, but he gently moved her hand away, not angry, not loud, just hurt. The volunteer, trying to be friendly, blurted out, "I had no idea you were involved with Miss Rhodes. She's practically royalty around here." And that was it. The lie shattered. Harold excused himself and walked out. Not fast, not aggressive, just defeated. And Lillian followed, calling his name, trying to explain, but the words kept tangling in her throat. All those months pretending to be someone she wasn't suddenly felt so foolish, so small. She reached him at the parking lot, breathless. "Harold, please, let me explain." He turned to her, eyes soft but wounded. "Why didn't you trust me enough to tell me the truth?" And she had no answer, at least not one that didn't make her look worse. The silence between them stretched painfully long. He opened his car door. "I need time," he whispered, then drove off, leaving her standing there with the weight of her own scheme crushing her. But this is where the story turns, because the next day, things didn't just stop at heartbreak. No, they got worse, much worse. Her lie didn't just backfire emotionally, it triggered consequences she never saw coming. Consequences that threatened not just the relationship, but Harold's safety, his home, and even his reputation. And it all started when someone else, someone with cruel intentions, discovered who she really was and decided to use Harold as leverage. At the exact moment Lillian realized this new threat, she showed up at Harold's door, trembling, desperate to warn him. But the door opened, and what she saw inside made her gasp. Lillian froze on Harold's doorstep, breath catching in her throat as she stared past him into the dimly lit living room. Papers were scattered across the table, bank letters, notices, documents he never would have left out casually. Harold stepped back, startled by her sudden appearance, but even more startled by the panic in her eyes. "Lillian, what's wrong?" he asked softly, but she could hear the exhaustion in his voice. She knew she'd put that there. She pushed past him, unable to stop herself, scanning the room as if she expected someone dangerous to appear. "Harold, has anyone contacted you? Anyone asked about me? About who I really am?" He frowned, confused. "What are you talking about?" But then his eyes flicked to the papers. He exhaled heavily. "Actually, yes. Someone came by this morning. Said he was from a financial agency doing a background review on you. Asked me questions about our relationship. But I told him I didn't know anything anymore." Lillian's stomach twisted. She knew exactly who it was. The moment her identity slipped yesterday, sharks began circling. Not suitors, not curious neighbors, business rivals. One in particular, a man who'd spent years trying to drag her company down. Someone who would use any weakness to get leverage. And now he thought Harold was that weakness. She turned to him, voice shaking. "Harold, that wasn't a financial agent. That man works for someone who's tried to hurt me before. If he's asking you questions, it means they're planning something. I'm so sorry. I never meant for you to get pulled into this." He leaned against the table, processing slowly. "Lillian, I trusted you. I let you into my home. You lied to me for months. And now you're telling me someone dangerous might be after me because of you? How am I supposed to handle all that?" She stepped closer, her voice breaking. "I never wanted this. I just wanted to know if someone could love me without knowing my money existed." "And did you get your answer?" he asked, quiet but so painfully direct. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She simply lowered her head because the truth was tangled. Her plan had exposed his goodness, yes, but it had also wounded it. Harold rubbed his temples, trying to make sense of everything. "Lillian, if you had just told me who you were, none of this—" A sharp knock cut him off. Both of them stiffened. That wasn't the soft, friendly tap of a neighbor. It was firm, intentional. 3 slow, heavy knocks that echoed in the small house. Lillian grabbed Harold's hand instinctively, and for the first time since the truth came out, he didn't pull away. They stood together, silent, breathing shallow. Harold whispered, "Should I answer it?" "No," she whispered back. "Let me." But when she approached the door and looked through the peephole, whoever had been there was already gone. In their place, taped neatly to the door frame, was a white envelope. When she opened it, Harold watched her face drain of color. "What is it?" he asked. She handed him the note. It wasn't long. Just 6 printed words. "You chose him, now pay dearly." Harold swallowed hard. "Is this about money?" "It's about revenge," she whispered. "And they think taking you down takes me down." He sank into a chair, rubbing his face. "So what do we do? Call the police?" "I already tried," Lillian said, sitting across from him. "They can only take a report. There's no direct threat, nothing they can act on yet." Harold let out a long, tired breath. "Lillian, I'm a 72-year-old man. I didn't sign up for any of this." She felt tears sting her eyes. "I know, and I'm so sorry. Let me fix this. Let me protect you. I'll pay whatever it takes to make them back off." Harold stared at her, but not with anger now, just deep sadness. "Money isn't the answer to everything, Lillian." "I know," she whispered. "That's why I went looking for a man like you." He shook his head slowly. "You didn't go looking for me. You went looking for someone to test." That hit harder than any threat letter could. She reached out, placing her hand on his. This time, he didn't move away. "Please, just let me make this right." He closed his eyes. "Okay, but you need to tell me everything. No more secrets." For the next hour, she told him everything. Her rival, his history of blackmail, how he manipulated people into ruining their own credibility. Harold listened without interrupting. For the first time since the lie broke, he began to understand the fear behind her choices. Misguided? Yes. Hurtful? Yes. But rooted in a lifetime of being used. When she finished, Harold stood and walked to the window. "If someone's trying to scare me, they're wasting their time. I rebuilt my life from nothing after my wife died. I've survived worse than intimidation." Then he turned, giving her a long, searching look. "But what scares me is losing trust in someone I started caring about." Lillian's chest tightened. "I care about you too, Harold." He nodded slowly, thinking. "Then let's face this together." Those words lifted a weight off her. For the first time since the accident at the charity event, she felt hope. Real hope. But that hope didn't last long. Because the next morning, Harold's bank froze his account due to suspicious activity. His neighbor mentioned seeing a stranger snooping near his backyard, and when he tried to go to the police again, the officer told him someone had already filed a report claiming Harold himself was stalking a wealthy businesswoman, a report clearly fabricated to make him look unstable. Every move they made, someone was 2 steps ahead, and Harold realized it before she did. "They're not after me," he said quietly. "They're trying to make me look like a problem for you. So you distance yourself. So you look weak. So he can smear you in the media." That was when Lillian finally broke. "Harold, I dragged you into this. I can't let them ruin your life." But Harold stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on her cheek. "You didn't drag me anywhere. You lied, yes, but you came clean. You're here now, and I'm choosing to stay." Her voice trembled. "Even after everything?" "Even after everything." They decided to confront the rival directly, not violently, not recklessly, but publicly. Lillian held a press conference, exposing the intimidation tactics, revealing the forged reports, and announcing she would be protecting her partner from malicious interference. Reporters asked who her partner was, and she motioned Harold forward. He walked to her side, nervous but steady, and the world saw something real. A man without status, standing beside a woman with all the power in the world, both choosing each other despite the chaos. Her rival backed off within days. Too much public heat, too much scrutiny. With the danger gone, Harold finally looked at her one evening and said, "I don't want the lie to be the thing people remember. I want what comes after." She smiled through tears. "Then let's build something honest." And they did. Not fast, not perfect, but real. She stopped hiding behind money. He stopped fearing he wasn't enough. 2 seniors who thought love had passed them by learned something powerful. Trust isn't built on wealth or tests. It's built on truth, vulnerability, and choosing each other even when it's hard. And sometimes, the plan that backfires is the one that leads you exactly where your heart needed to go. If this story touched you, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who loves emotional stories, and subscribe for more. And tell me in the comments, do you believe real love can still begin after 60?